Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Hi everyone, Catherine Eardley here. I'm your host of today's podcast, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership group and mastermind for product businesses. Find out more at resilientretailclub.com. Before we get into today's episode, which is an absolute cracker with Mel Eilers, going to be talking all about paid advertising, I'd just like to make a small request. As business owners, you know how important it is to have reviews and ratings for your products. And for me, it's absolutely no different. So if you have enjoyed the podcast, then do please consider leaving it a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also rate it within the Spotify app. Make sure that you take the moment right now to subscribe or follow the podcast, and then that way you'll be the first to know about every single new episode. So let's jump into today's episode with Mel Eilers, all about paid advertising. Thanks so much for joining me, Mel. Do you want to start off by introducing yourself and your business?
Yes, thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Mel Eilers, and I work with independent, founder-led e-commerce brands who are looking to scale their sales through Facebook and Instagram advertising.
Fantastic. And I know this is such a hot topic, so we're going to be covering lots of different elements of ads today, but let's just start off by addressing what people should be thinking about when it comes to thinking about running ads. So if anyone's listening to this podcast and wondering whether or not ads are for them, what would you advise them if they came to you and said, how do I know if I'm ready to start?
That's a very good question. So one thing you definitely don't do is just fire up Ads Manager, find an image, write some copy, get out your credit card, launch an ad and expect the sales to roll in. Don't do that. This is a surefire way to lose your money. So essentially, I believe there are 5 things you need to think about first. Number one, which is the most important, is there actually a need for your product? Do you have product market fit? Are you getting a good level of sales organically? So as much as ads can amplify existing sales, which is great, you don't really want to put ad spend behind a brand or product where it has not yet been proven, because that could be really expensive. So is there a demand for your product is number one, so important. Number 2, not in any particular order, these asset management, which sounds quite dull, but is one of those necessary evils, is can you locate and do you own all of your own assets? And by assets, I mean your ad account, your pixel, and your organic Facebook page. And ideally, these should all be housed within your business manager. Your business manager is essentially a suitcase that houses all these assets. In my opinion, one of the most important things for businesses is budget and data, and being able to see where your money is being spent and what data that is giving you is so important. And that as a brand, you want to be in charge of that. You need to have your eyes on those assets. So if a previous employee, for example, set up a Facebook page, or a previous agency or freelancer has boosted a few posts in the past, you need to check that they don't inadvertently own those assets.
Right.
Not to say there's no way forward if that's the case, because there is, but it can be tricky to sort out. It's so much better to get the foundations, good foundations laid ahead of running ads.
And how often does that happen, that you find people where they actually don't own it?
More often than not, actually, bizarrely.
Oh, okay.
I've spoken to some quite big brands in the past, and I've said, so who owns your Facebook page? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm talking to them about a business manager, and it's all a bit double Dutch to them, which I'm not surprised. Facebook doesn't come with an onboarding manual, unfortunately. Yeah. It is really important to try and get. It can be sometimes like untangling the fairy lights for the Christmas tree before you put them on. It's a necessary evil, but once it's done, that's the way it should stay. It's good to get it sorted ahead of running ads, because you don't want to put too much data on a pixel or in an ad account that you don't own, because much further down the line, you might find that you don't own that data, which, believe me, is a pain. And it's an expensive pain as well.
Because you paid for it, right? You paid for that data.
You pay for the data. You want to own that data, and then you can utilize it going forward. That was number 2. Number 3, the technical bit. Is your pixel installed on your website? Has the conversions API been installed? You may hear to this referred to as CAPI. Very easy to do if you're running Shopify, WooCommerce, possibly a web developer job if you're running a different platform. I'm not going to go too deep on this, as it can be quite technical, but essentially tracking is important so you can see how people are moving through your website. And it's important to know if your website actually converts. So there's no point spending money driving traffic to the site if the customer experience is not conducive to making the sale.
Do you think that even if people aren't planning on running an ad right away, do you think that it's good to get that done, even if it's something that you think you might want to do in the future, just so it can start gathering data?
Yes, definitely. Yes. So, without a doubt. The sooner you get the tracking out of the pixel put onto your website, install the conversions API, that can just sit there and gather data, whether you run ads now or in 2 years' time. So if you weren't going to run ads for 6 months, a year, whatever, you can go into that in Ads Manager, and the data's there and it's all ready for you to use. So don't wait. If you're not planning on ads, don't wait. Just get it done. It's kind of the part of your marketing business setup, really, to get your tracking sorted out. Number 4, your organic social. And I bang the drum about this a lot. All too often, the importance of organic social gets overlooked, yet it's massively important. And it can really help your ads gain traction as well. Facebook wants engaging organic content on its platform. That means stuff, posts that people actually prompt a reply from people, not just sales content, social content. So content that actually speaks to your audience, that warrants them. Maybe you ask a question of it, so it warrants a reply. You may have better reach on Instagram than you do on Facebook. Unfortunately, that seems to be the current way at the moment. But don't neglect the other channel. And I say this because when you run ads, not every click on that ad goes through to your website. If they click on your brand name on an ad that's in their Facebook feed, they're going to end up in your Facebook business page.
Right.
What are they going to see when they get there? And you don't want that to be tumbleweed, because that does nothing to build the know, like, and trust. So, play to your strengths organically if you're getting more organic reach and traction on Instagram or vice versa, but don't completely neglect the other one as well, because it's important that you are embracing the whole Facebook ecosystem.
Do you think it's enough to reshare what you're posting on Instagram onto Facebook, or do you think you need Facebook specific content?
Probably depends on if you have the same audience on both, or whether you have different audiences. I mean, you should always be looking to gear that organic content to suit the audience that you have. No, there's no harm in sharing between the two, of course not. But equally, if you think you have slightly different audiences wanting different things, then you need to tailor that as well. It is something I come across a lot when we talk about running ads with people, and I'm like, so who is your social media manager, or as I like to call them, your brand perception manager? Because social media now is very much, it's not an admin job, which is very much how you are customer facing. And it's a lot of your marketing these days is through social media. So it's how is your brand perceived through social media? And when you get new eyes on your social channels, what are they going to see? What are they going to perceive your brand to be about? And how are you building that know, like, and trust? So that was number 4. Number 5, budgets and creative. There's no getting away from the fact that you need budget to run ads. How much you need depends on your objective and the level of sales that you want to achieve. A full funnel build, for example, bringing in new cold audiences and retargeting warm audiences, is going to cost more than, say, some engagement campaigns or video view campaigns. And if you want sales, working this out, what budget you need means you need to know the numbers within your business, your margin, how much it costs you to acquire a client, what the average order value is, lifetime value, et cetera, et cetera. You've got to be strategic. don't bury your head in the sand over the numbers is massively important. And anyone you work with for your ads, whether you do them in-house or whether you outsource them, they should be asking you about your numbers. So you need to know them, and you need to be willing to share them as well in order to make decisions over what kind of budget you need and what that's in theory going to get you in your account.
Yeah. So it's not something that you should expect necessarily your ads manager to figure out for you. You need to know the numbers, the average order value, the customer lifetime value, like your margins, what profit you're making per item, per sale.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Of that.
I mean, it doesn't need to be like individual down to every single different product, but you need to have a broad understanding of your top line figures, and you need to be willing to pass that on to your ads manager. And not, only because, and also when they're running the ads in the account, if they're getting a really high cost per acquisition, then, cost per sale, then they need to know where your margins lie so they can actually, figure out the campaigns and offer a strategy or a way forward or change things up to actually try and bring those costs down in line with what you actually need to make a profit within your business.
Yeah.
So that was the budget. And creative as well, is your copy and your images are what is going to initially stop the scroll in the newsfeed. So these are massively important. You need a stack of images. You need your catalog linked up into Ads Manager. Trust me, I have seen it when it's not linked up, and you're like, why are you not running? Yeah, anyway. And ideally you need video content as well. And for creative, don't just think about a simple image of your product. People are more likely to buy when they can see that product in situ. So for example, if you sell candles, don't just use images of those candles on a plain white or colored background. Use images of those candles emitting soft lighting, creating a cozy atmosphere in a living room, for example. If you sell armchairs, use images of people actually sitting in those armchairs to convey feelings of comfort and relaxation. People buy on emotion. So the more this can come across in your ads, the better. So that's quite a long list to take in. If you're not running ads yet and you are thinking about it, I just think it's super important to think ahead and really lay those foundations so there aren't really any surprises once you eventually run ads.
No, I think it's really fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. I bring to mind a few things. First off, I always say to people about ads, it's like ads is like having a megaphone. So you're paying money to say your message to more people, but if your message isn't working to start with, then having the megaphone's not going to help.
Exactly.
So it's like getting that message and the product positioning and everything correct. Are there signs that you're ready for ads or signs that you're not ready for ads? When someone comes to you and talks to you about running ads, obviously there's all those things they need to get in a row. But what to you are some of the indicators, okay, this person's not ready, or actually, yes, this is a great time?
Sometimes if I sense that they are quite unsure, I obviously run through all of the items we just talked about. But equally, when you first start to run ads, they have to be prepared for the fact that those sales may not immediately come in. Invariably, when I work with someone new for the first time, I always say it's 3 months minimum is where we're going to start for running ads. And you've got to think of those 3 months as buying data.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to spend that money to buy data, i.e. you need to see sales and good sales from week 1, then maybe you're not quite ready. Maybe something needs to change within the business. I mean, hopefully it's not going to be 3 months before you get your first sale, but Facebook ads works best when you are constantly testing. So you're testing messages, you're testing your copy, you're testing the audiences as well to find out where you're going to get traction. And the testing takes time. The bigger budget you have up front, the more testing ad sets that you can run, testing campaigns as well. If they are not really happy with essentially spending money for 3 months and there not being a huge return on that, that would be a sign to me that they are not quite ready. I wouldn't want to sugarcoat anything when it comes to ads. Yes, you are highly likely to get sales from the word go, but it may not be enough for you to immediately start making a positive ROAS. It takes time. So it takes time, it takes patience, it takes an awful lot of testing. and you need to be willing to effectively use that budget to buy data, not necessarily with the level of return you may be expecting from the word go.
Just for anyone who's listening that is not familiar with the term ROAS, you want to just give us ROAS in a nutshell?
Return on ad spend. So, what is the ROAS for every pound that you spend on ads? What is the return on that? So if you have a ROAS of 2, so every pound you spend, you're getting £1 back. So essentially you're doubling your money. If you've got a ROAS of 5, you're getting £5 back for every pound that you have spent. The level of ROAS that you achieve, unfortunately, it's not something you can benchmark across industries, even in ads either, but it's very specific to the brand itself, because everyone behind the scenes has different products, different prices, different budgets. It's like, say you've got 2 candle companies, you would think, oh, maybe they're benchmark ROAS between that. But, essentially that's like comparing apples and oranges. If you've got one candle company spending, £5,000 on their ads, but their average order value is £100, for example, they're likely to have a higher ROAS than a candle company, say, spending £5,000, but their average order value is 25, because it's going to take an awful lot more sales to get that ROAS up. I hope that explains it.
No, that's a great way of explaining it. Thank you. And I think also what the thing that trips up people, because I have worked with people who built quite significant businesses, but on the back of ads. But then when we actually looked at it, the trouble is that if you've got, so let's say your ROAS is 2, so you spend £1 on ads and you get £2 of sales. Well, of course, we all know that's just revenue. That's not profit. So that's where knowing your margins really ties into all of this, because you have to be really sure that your ROAS is enough to not just generate additional sales, but actually to generate additional profit.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I think it's interesting what you're saying about those 3 months, because that is something that discussions that I've had with people and with other ads managers about. You almost have to say you could only spend on ads what you're prepared to lose. It's like that first 3 months in particular. Just you have to know, if you're going to do it, that those 3 months, it's possible that that you won't make money.
Yeah, exactly. The return may not be there in the first 3 months. It just takes time to get that traction, and also for Facebook to learn who you are targeting and the results that you are trying to achieve. Facebook is a massive learning machine, essentially, and the more data you feed it, the better it gets. But it takes time.
Yeah. Have you ever had it where you've run them for 3 months and after 3 months you're like, actually, this something to do with the product fit, the profitability, the average spend, or something just means that, or just people just aren't into the product?
I have actually. It was a few years ago now, and the product was not massively highly priced. But once you bought that product, you would then going to keep it for 2 to 3 years, possibly. So, the lifetime value, the repeat business, that was not necessarily there. And it was quite a bespoke product as well. And so those ads were quite tough. And it took, some learning on the side of the business as well, to realize what they needed to actually do in their business to try and increase their profitability first, before actually putting any more ad spend into Facebook.
I see. Oh, interesting. So it was almost like the structure of the business more than anything in specific.
Yes, I think so. And looking and diversifying the product range as well. The product range was really small. And so, if you'd already bought one of the products from them, you wouldn't necessarily buy anything else, probably within a year. So the range on the product range was quite small as well. And it was quite niche. The target market was also quite small. There wasn't a lot of broad appeal, which, the broader appeal, bringing in lots of cold audiences into your business, is one way to increase the sales at the bottom of the funnel.
Right.
And when that top of funnel is quite small, and that doesn't help. And again, this was a client whose social media didn't really back up the ads as well.
Right, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so make sure it's all part of the customer journey, because they will ping around, they'll see an ad and they'll go check you out, and then they'll move from place to place. So you've got to make sure it's consistent.
Yeah, all the touch points have to be consistent.
Yeah. So I just want to change tack slightly here and just ask you a little bit about people who are already running ads, because I know lots of people who listening to the podcast, some people may not be running ads, but there will be people who already do have ads running. So what advice would you give them about the lay of the land when it comes to ads in 2023, and then also looking ahead to 2024?
Yeah, definitely. So there is no doubt that the ads landscape has changed a lot in the past couple of years, and anyone who's running ads is going to be well aware of all the changes, especially since the opt-out device for iOS 14. And the one thing I still see brands doing this year is assessing the impact of their different marketing channels in isolation to each other. So no channel has 100% accuracy on attribution. We know this. So brands really need to be looking at their marketing as a whole, i.e., we're spending this much and we're getting these results. And that's across, Facebook, Google, and any other email marketing, however, whatever channels they're running, whatever they're spending, and what they're getting back. So the individual platform data, say Facebook versus Google, for example, should be used as a guide to decision making and future strategy. I would never now try and shoehorn which sale came from which platform, because it will drive you nuts. It really, the customer journey is different compared to where, how the attribution works. For example, if someone has seen an ad in their Facebook feed, but they haven't clicked on it, they haven't necessarily taken any action on it, but it's resonated with them. A day or two later, they then might go to Google and type in that brand name and then go through to the website and make a sale. So Google would take that as a sale from Google, but actually Facebook was the one that made the consumer aware of the brand in the first place. So it's kind of working out what feeds what by digging deep into the data in the back end. You should use that data to kind of guide your decisions. But the days of trying to shoehorn which sale has come from which and apply, more into Google or more into Facebook, for example, is, or sometimes people have said, oh, I'm going to turn Facebook off because nothing's coming on it. And then you turn, other ads managers I've heard of have turned Facebook off and then their sales have dropped and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
Not immediately obvious the impact that those channels are having. So that is definitely one thing brands need to get their head around, and that goes into 2024 as well. And on top of this, functionality within Facebook Ads Manager has also changed this year. It changes every year. It will continue to do so. If there's anything that we can guarantee of Facebook, that is change. It will always change. Marketing changes. It does. Nothing stays the same. So one of the major changes we've seen a lot of this year is the introduction of the Advantage functionality. So we have Advantage Shopping, we have Advantage Creative. Essentially, what this means is it's placing more control in the hands of Facebook. Giving Facebook more liquidity to pull on different levers to, in theory, get you the sale, which sounds great. I would always advise to proceed with caution when these new options appear in your ad account. Test the functionality, but don't blindly think it's the answer to great sales. It may not be. And that can also, depend a lot. I see differences between different clients that I work with. When Advantage Shopping came out earlier this year, it appeared in 2 client accounts at roughly the same week, because we set it up in both. One client absolutely flew out the gates, great sales. The other one took nearly 2 months to get going. It always made money and it performed, but performance was pretty mediocre. Now, 5-6 months down the line, that Advantage Shopping campaign fills in the most sales at the lowest cost.
Right.
It's amazing. So no 2 accounts are the same. So when Facebook introduces all this new functionality, test it, but proceed with caution. If it doesn't work, don't feel you've got to stick with it because Facebook's making recommendations in your ad account. It may not be right for your brand or for your objectives. So test everything that's in line with your brand's goals, essentially.
And presumably also Facebook may have more control over where it puts the ad, but if there's something fundamentally not quite right about the strategy or the copy or the imagery or the video and the ads, then that's also, it's worth examining what's actually going on in a bit more detail, right?
Yeah, definitely. And one option that Facebook has, I think it's the dynamic text option, and it's where it moves the headline and the description, the body copy around to where it thinks it might get you more traction. But when you're served those ads in your news feed, and the headline is like the intro copy, and then the body copy is kind of running off the description, it doesn't look so great.
Right.
It's one of those things, always test it. But if it doesn't suit you, or it doesn't look good, or it doesn't work, don't stick with it. Move on, try something else. So, and the other thing actually for 2023, I've seen brands embracing more, which I think is massively important, not a bit indirectly to ads, but that's email marketing. So, it's hand in hand with ads, and it's so important. And I've seen a lot of brands finally utilizing email marketing more and segmenting their list and actually emailing them. So email is not dead.
No.
And think about how much it costs to acquire a customer versus how much it costs to get that repeat business. Yes, you can do retargeting ads. Of course you can spend money that. But actually, if you're utilizing your existing customers through your email, how likely are they to buy again? And if they've had a good experience from your brand, they may tell their friends, which again makes them, mini ambassadors for your brand. So the different touch points consumers have with you all build towards helping those sales. So the marketing should always be bigger than just the Facebook ads platform. Email, you have to be utilizing email, not only because you also own that data as well. It's your own list.
I completely agree. Yeah. And I often talk to clients about this when they've been running ads. If they're not fully utilizing their emails, I always say to them, look, you're spending this money to acquire those customer. So now you have to remarket to them, because you've spent that money. It's basically, of course, yes, setting up something like Klaviyo costs money, but it's not the same. You've paid that money already. You own that piece of data. You bought it. So use it, because otherwise it's like you're getting one bite of the cherry, whereas you could be having multiple, and everything that drives up profitability, like your customer lifetime value, so the total amount of money that people are likely to spend with you over their lifetime. If you can move that up, then your overall profitability is just going to shift up a gear. And for me, email marketing is a no-brainer. If you're paying the money to run ads, you need to sort out your email marketing for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. I always know when a client has emailed their list, because the Facebook sales are higher that day.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's to do with the customer touch points. They've seen an email come into their basket, whether they've even opened it or not. They've probably seen a subject line. They've seen an email arrive. Then they get fed, a Facebook ad as well. And all of a sudden, your brand is front of mind again. And then thinking, I must restock. I must check out that brand. I must check out that new product. And also, don't forget that you can upload your email list into Facebook Ads Manager, segmented or not segmented, and you can use that to target those specific segments or the whole email list. And you can also use that to make lookalike audiences. So Facebook will go out and look for the people who look like the people on your email list. So your email list is massively important, not only to email them, but to utilize that within Ads Manager as well. That was something I think a lot of brands are certainly beginning to embrace more in 2023, and hopefully reaping the rewards of it as well. Heading into 2024, I think, expect change, embrace it, test everything. We never know quite what's coming. There's bound to be more changes on iOS platforms. I know there are obviously some planned. But running Facebook ads is a continuous process. The more data you can get through your account, the better. Facebook learns who you're trying to reach. So plan ahead always. And the more you plan, the better.
Great advice. So looking forward then into Q4, we've got Christmas right around the corner. What would you suggest that people, well, two questions really. First off, what would you suggest for business owners who are running ads to make the most out of the fourth quarter? And secondly, if someone's thinking, oh, should I go for ads now or wait until the spring? Like, what would your advice be?
So we're entering a super busy time for retail and a super competitive time for advertising. There's no sugarcoating that, I'm afraid. Costs will rise over the coming weeks. Big players will spend some huge budgets to get sales. If you're already running ads and plan to run ads in Q4, the first thing to do really is to run the numbers and make a plan. There's no point running, for example, a 30% site-wide discount offer for Black Friday if it makes no sense financially.
No.
So think strategically, look back at what you did last year. If discounts make no sense, what else can you do? Can you increase average order value, for example, through bundle deals? So that is planning the financial side has to happen first. And if that is all working out well, this is the time now that you should be building your audiences, making sure you're bringing in plenty of new eyes into your business, onto your brand, onto your products, so that by the time your offers are launched, whether it's Black Friday or whether it's Christmas, they're primed and ready to buy. So a great way to do this is through video view campaigns, which can be relatively cheap to run and also super effective. You can just retarget everyone who's watched a certain percentage of your video and bring them further down the funnel. Get your brand in front of them in a relatively cost-effective way. And also, start thinking about when your offers are going to launch and tell them. So if you are planning a big, a 7-day campaign in a Pacific week in November or December, make sure people know so they know when to look out for it. And that's, whether that's via email or via, targeting the warm audiences through your ads, the more people know, the more they're going to be primed to buy. But right now, this is the time to be testing new creative and messaging to find the winners ahead of time. So again, by the time your offers are launched, you know that messaging and that creative works. Also to be looking at this, again, this goes beyond ads, but it's all part of the journey. If you're sending more traffic to your website, can the website handle the extra load? Do you have enough stock to cover the potential increase in orders? Do you have enough staff to pick and pack, for example, if you're doing your own distribution? The customer experience and their journey with you carries long after they've clicked on a Facebook ad. And these are all the things to be thinking about now to lay the strong foundations in the coming weeks. The last thing you want them to do is to click on an ad for a product, but that product is actually out of stock, or actually your website can't handle all the extra traffic on your 7-day sale, and no one can actually get in to buy or to buy the product that you're trying to promote. So it kind of goes beyond the ads. It's such a busy time, but laying that good foundations now can really help you in a few weeks' time. So if you're not running ads, I think there's 2 schools of thought here as to whether you should start in Q4. If you have budget, you have good organic social, good data in your pixel, maybe you've run ads in the past, essentially you're set up and ready. I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't start ads now. We're near the end of September, so we're not quite at the peak season yet. There is still a little time to test the messaging and your audiences. But just go into it with an open mind, knowing that this is a competitive time of year and the results and costs you may achieve might be completely different to what you might achieve in, say, February, for example. If you're not 100% set up and ready, you're still deciding on your budget, you need to improve your website, organic social, your pixel's new, then I would caution that this is possibly not a great time to start. Right. The last thing you want to do is spend your budget, find that it's taking time to get any traction, as this can happen, as we discussed about the 3 months earlier, and then turn the ads off thinking that they don't work. Ads do work, but they take time, patience, budget, and data. So if this is you and you're not quite ready, those foundations aren't quite ready, I would hold off until January when costs have fallen and really get the work on those foundations first. You don't want to spend out a huge amount of money to try and compete in Q4 and not get the return that you are, hopefully wanting.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mel. It's been such a fascinating chat. I feel like you've shared some real gems. So do you want to tell us about how people can find out more about you?
Yeah, so you can visit my website at sociallysound.co.uk. You can always email me, mel@sociallysound.co.uk. I do offer 30-minute free discovery calls for anyone who wants to explore further options with ads. They just mentioned this podcast in the email, then I'll know exactly where they've come from. I also do have 2 quizzes that can help brands make more accurate decisions about their future with Facebook marketing. Number one is the Facebook Ads Readiness Scorecard, which is ideal for brands thinking of getting started with ads, but not sure if they are ready. It basically covers the questions that we talked about at the start of our conversation today. The other one is the Peak Performance Scorecard. So ideal for brands already running ads, but they're questioning whether they've got the right strategy, whether they're actually utilizing the platform enough to maximize their returns. Both of them take less than 5 minutes, and you get a personalized email with your results at the end. And it should give you a good indication of where the gaps are and where you need to improve.
Amazing. And we will link to those in the show notes. So if you're interested in starting ads or want to know if you're on the right track, then go check them out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mel, for sharing those amazing tips and practical advice. And thanks so much to you for listening. So why not head over to @Resilient Retail Club on Instagram and let me know what you thought about today's episode. What were your key takeaways? And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, do take a moment to rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts or rate it within the Spotify app. And of course, don't forget to follow or subscribe so you'll be the first to know about each new episode. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.